was right, we were screwed. In the mid to late 2000s, it seemed like Xbox could do no wrong. They were on top of the gaming world, dominating the triple the price PS3 that no developer knew how to make games for, killing it with back-to-back amazing exclusives, Halo and Gears of War at their absolute peak, a thriving and vibrant community of gamers who weren't racist in the slightest, never, and dominating the PS3 in terms of sales for 90% of the 7th gen just to lose in the end. Meanwhile, the Wii...
We're not competing against the Wii. What, fucking gyro controls? It doesn't matter that they had 20 million more sales than... Wait, 20 million sales? We're releasing the Kinect to compete against the Wii.
And so the wheels began falling off. The first time Microsoft did something that wasn't inherently consumer friendly or gamer first, aside from charging for online, but instead explicitly done to chase trends. The Wii was dominating the gaming market at the time with its innovative motion controls, and both Sony and Microsoft wanted a piece of that pie. Sony shit out the PlayStation Move to fucking die. Meanwhile, Microsoft went all in, a full-fledged new system with its own fully fledged games requiring that system and its own innovative twist to really prove their superiority over Nintendo and the Wii, cause what's better than a motion controller? No controller! So I can move my hand like this, and my character can do this. It didn't work, just like E3 2013, putting it lightly, didn't work. The reveal of the Xbox One in the moment that, in my opinion, destroyed Xbox so badly that to this day, it's never fully recovered. A showcase that explicitly ignored everything that made them so successful and beloved at that point. That player-first mantra compared to Sony's greed and Nintendo's gimmicky bullshit, instead rarely focusing on the gaming community while trying to sell their gaming console in favor of talking about
TV, television.
For 90% of the showcase, continuing to appeal to that casual mass audience fan base that they had been trying to catch since the Kinect, all while pissing off their actual gaming player base that was going to buy their gaming console. An always online system. What does that mean? It means if you're trying to play your single player, no internet connection required Gears of War to get your mind off your shitty fucking life because you couldn't afford your internet bill after Xfinity increased it by 50% without warning, too bad. You cannot play your single player, no internet connection required Gears of War without an internet connection because your console will not fucking work. So think about your shitty fucking life. Contemplate that shit, or as Don Maddox so beautifully put it, buy the Xbox 360. Thank you, Don Maddox. I will take your advice and not buy the Xbox One.
Man, that sounds like it fucking sucks. But it's a good thing I paid off my internet bill and borrowed this copy of Halo 5 from a friend of mine to play.
Opa Kang, do I have news for you? That copy of Halo 5 that you borrowed from your friend, that too, you cannot play. Why? Because you borrowed it. Copies of games were tied to the console they were played on, meaning that they could not be resold or handed off, killing off the ability to buy pre-owned games from GameStop for dirt cheap. So your only option is to either buy them brand new physically, buy them off the Microsoft store, which never goes on sale, but at least Xbox gets a percentage of the profit, or pay a fee to play that pre-owned game. Here's a video PlayStation posted a day later.
Thanks.
Microsoft would remove these restrictions shortly after, forcing them to go on a bit of an apology tour to attempt to win back their old fan base, especially after Phil Spencer took over in 2014, cutting the Xbox One price by $100 by removing its Kinect requirements. Remember the Xbox One Kinect? No the fuck you don't, because it lasted like a year and was a glorified $100 series.
Xbox, go home. So you see, regardless of
buying up smaller studios to financially support and publish their games, completely free backwards compatibility for most of the 360's library, and some of the OG Xboxes, publishing their exclusives on PC, pushing for cross-platform support across consoles, and the holy grail of pro-consumer products, Xbox Game Pass, a catalog of hundreds of games that you could fully play through, brand new AAA games available completely for free on day one, and more frequently added, all for 10 fucking doubloons a month. Genuinely the best deal in gaming at the time, all while PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan said that the model was unsustainable. But
what the fuck does Jim Ryan know? Brother thought Concord was the future of PlayStation, a Star Wars level IP. Shut the fuck up, you live service loving kook.
Microsoft would then increase the price to $15 a month in 2019. But despite that, it was still the best offer in gaming, no doubt. Everybody loved it, and things were genuinely looking up for the brand after their disastrous Xbox One reveal. Sure, they had been destroyed by the PS4 and Switch, but they were making a comeback with both community sentiment and monetarily, as the Series X and S would become the fastest selling Xboxes of all time, giving Xbox lots of cash that they would begin showing off, cash that they would begin flaunting by buying up Bethesda and Activision Blizzard. As with the decade arriving, Xbox had a new 10-year plan, attaining 100 million Game Pass subscribers by 2030. Their golden goose, their one shining beacon from the failure that was the 2010s. Xbox decided to go all in on the subscription-based models, hoping to become the Netflix of gaming by making Game Pass's offerings an irresistible purchase. And the way they would do that was by making a deal with the devil, awakening Big Daddy Microsoft from their slumber and asking for their credit card information in order to bolster their Game Pass offerings by buying up ZeniMax, aka Bethesda, for $8 billion, adding their massive library of games to Game Pass right off the bat. Doom, Elder Scrolls, hope that game does you well when it comes out in 2041. Wolfenstein, Prey, Fallout, hope that game does you well when it comes out in 2054. And many others, shortly followed by Activision motherfucking Blizzard for $70 billion in 2022, which would open up an entire lawsuit with the FTC, during which FTC chair Lina Khan warned Microsoft that the deal would hurt both Xbox developers and its consumers in the long run. A former Bethesda executive, which remember Xbox now own, parroted this by saying that gaming subscriptions are worth, and I quote, jack shit without proper support from developers who Khan, remember, said would suffer from this deal. Xbox heard all of this and bought Activision anyways, because what do they know? Who are they to tell Microsoft about business? They're Xbox. They've never won a single console race. Buying two of the biggest studios in gaming all within the span of a few years, all in an attempt to reach that 100 million subscriber goal by the end of the decade. They were at this point less than 20 million subscribers. Quite a ways to go. But their theory would be tested roughly 3 years later, as in 2023, Starfield would release day one on Game Pass. That is an unfortunate game to test this theory out on, but you know what? It actually worked, as not only did it become one of the best-selling games of that year, it broke Game Pass's single-day subscriber record, transitioning millions of sales into millions of subs like they were hoping for, 10 million within the first 2 weeks across console, PC, and Game Pass. And while there was no official statement of how many of those 10 million players were new subs, in 2022, they were at an estimated 25 million. At the start of 2024, a few months after the release of Starfield, they were at 34 million. Microsoft would then raise Game Pass's prices to $17 a month and then fire 2,000 employees. But it wasn't a complete fail. Roughly 10 million people in around 2 years is solid, even if we are still a ways to go from 100 million subs. We were also still a ways to go from the end of the decade. If Game Pass just kept gaining 10 million subscribers a year, they could actually make it. They just needed a bigger franchise, a massive franchise, a big year-over-year revenue-making franchise appealing to both hardcore and mass audiences alike. And as luck would have it, the FTC dropped their lawsuit shortly after Starfield's release. Xbox now fully owned Activision Blizzard with their $70 billion purchase, a purchase which Microsoft would ensure they'd make profit off of. As due to Xbox going from not costing Microsoft much to $78 billion within 2 fucking years, Xbox inadvertently drew the Eye of Sauron, known as Microsoft, to their attention, would be determined to make up this loss by implementing a 30% profit margin per year. To put that into perspective, the average profit margins in the gaming industry is 17 to 22%. 30%, according to analysts, is usually reserved for publishers that are, and I quote, really nailing it. Xbox is dead last in the console race. Their profit margins the year before were 12%. Microsoft is now asking for 30. This purchase better fucking pan out. And it would be tested in March of 2024, as after shutting down Arcane and Tango Games, who had just made one of the most popular and breakout indie games of the previous year, Hi-Fi Rush, which was very successful in terms of indie success, but not successful in terms of a 30% profit margin success. So there it goes. Go fuck yourself, Microsoft. After shutting down these studios to save a bit of cash, they would release the behemoth that is Diablo 4 to Game Pass, one of the best-selling franchises of all time. 4 was one of the best-selling games of 2023. Did it spike subscribers on Game Pass? I don't know. We've never been given any numbers, although Game Pass's monthly price would bump up by $3 to $20 a month in July, and 600 employees would be let go in September as Microsoft's anger began to brew. But the big guns would come in October of that year, as Call of Duty Black Ops 6 would release on October 25th, 2024 on Xbox One,
Make it stop!
PS4, The Switch? No, I'm joking. There would actually be an explosion. PC, PS5, Series X, and Game Pass. This was it. This was the moment that Microsoft had been working towards, the moment that they had spent $70 billion fucking dollars for, the moment that they went through an entire lawsuit for Call of Duty, day one on Game Pass. They needed this thing to sell well, both financially as well as boost Game Pass subs to make up the $70 billion that they had spent, because Big Papa Microsoft is broke and can't take that kind of loss. See, look at how broke they are. They can't take a $70 billion loss. It'd be like you taking a $7 loss. They needed this win, and it would become the best-selling game of 2024, breaking Game Pass's single-day subscriber record, only to lose 300 million sales and do worse than Starfield by the end. Microsoft's anger was beginning to fucking boil, as despite being the best-selling game of 2024 in just 2 months, because we're all fucking suckers, including me, Black Ops 6 missed out on an estimated $300 million in terms of sales revenue that were instead playing on Game Pass. And while that kinda sounds like a good thing and the entire point of the purchase, it also sorta wasn't, because remember, Xbox was indebted to the devil and they needed to meet that 30% profit margin every year, and they couldn't just do it with Game Pass subs. They needed sales as well, and they got neither. $300 million in lost sales revenue, with the game being $70, assuming that nobody would have bought the $100 Vault Edition, because why would you pay $30 more for ass, and actual ass? That is roughly 4 million units lost, assuming best case scenario. This is best case scenario that every single one of those 4 million missing players played on Game Pass, and every single one of them was a new subscriber. It is more likely for me to get struck by lightning through my house while I'm recording this than that being the case, but I digress. Assuming that happened, then that would result in an increase of 4 million new subs to Game Pass, putting the grand total number of Game Pass subscribers at roughly 38 million. We are now halfway through the decade.
The gamble has failed.
The influx of subscribers didn't come, Xbox wasn't meeting their impossible to meet profit margins, and the reckoning would begin as Microsoft would fire 6,000 employees and raise the prices of all Xbox consoles. As it was announced on May of 2025 that Xbox was increasing the price of all their consoles and accessories not to meet their absurd profit margins, but because of market conditions, aka tariffs, which were announced in April, beginning on April 2nd, forcing Nintendo to pull pre-orders of the Switch 2, while Sony and Xbox did nothing, continued to sell their consoles at their normal prices. They were then paused a week later, except for in China, causing Nintendo to restart the pre-orders of the Switch 2 shortly after, at the same $450 price tag, not increasing it at all while Xbox and Sony continued to do the same. A couple of weeks go by where, out of nowhere, Xbox would announce that they were increasing the prices of all their consoles and accessories due to tariffs that were mainly paused at that point. 1 week later, the last remaining tariff against China was also paused, as Microsoft proceeded to increase the prices of their console anyways and fire 6,000 employees to save a bit of dough.
Isn't that convenient?
From $300 to $380 for the Series S, their budget console, that's simply meant to get people through the door and play their games while also handicapping the rest of the industry by making them optimize their game for shittier hardware. That console, the budget console, was now nearly the same price as a digital PS5, unless we're talking about the 1TB version, which was now more expensive than the more powerful digital PS5. From $350 to $430. The digital Series X went from $450 to $550. Physical went from $500 to $600. And finally, the 2TB physical version went from $600 to $730. We are now more expensive than the PS3 was at launch. Thankfully, the controllers all stay the same $70 price. That is, unless we're talking about the special and limited edition controllers, which went up by $10 despite being the exact same base model, but with a paint job or a clear shell. That's interesting. I guess Microsoft gets these paint jobs from China. That would explain it. Of course, the paused tariffs, they're affecting everything. Paint sets, electronics, your uncle's pacemaker, even digital lines of codes, forcing them to make games more expensive like The Outer Worlds 2.
Damn you, tariff.
As it was announced in April of 2025, after the Switch 2's reveal, not during it, they attempted to hide that fact from us, that Nintendo would be charging $80 for Mario Kart World. Not because they wanted more money, no, but because it was the greatest, biggest, most content-filled fucking game of all time. It has an open world and matchmaking that they ruined a month after launch. And in my Switch 2 video, during this topic, I mentioned that EA was likely salivating at the idea of selling their games at an $80 MSRP. because you cannot act and pretend like EA isn't currently salivating at the idea of selling their fucking games at $80 a pop. Although to my absolute shock and disbelief, this statement was actually incorrect, as shortly after that video came out, Electronic fucking Arts, EA, Electronic Arts EA. This is EA. I have to reiterate. This is Electronic Arts EA would actually come out and say that they would not sell their games for $80. I honestly.
Are you feeling okay? Sell your games at $80. What? Why are you not selling your game at $80? I don't feel comfortable.
Instead, the company I should have said was Xbox. Electronic Arts EA was being more consumer friendly than Xbox. As broke bitch Xbox, look at them, look at how broke they are, sniffing the opportunity to fill that $70 billion hole in their pocket because they can't just eat that loss. They're only worth $3 trillion. Come on. Jumped on the increased MSRP opportunity, announcing on the same day that they increased their console prices due to market conditions, aka tariffs, that they too would be increasing the price of their first party exclusives to $80 as well, not due to market conditions. They couldn't use that excuse like they could with hardware because you can't tariff a fucking line of code. No, the reason here was just cause
Nintendo did it.
Capitalizing on this a month later during their June Xbox showcase where they would announce that Outer Worlds 2, a game that, reminder, is about capitalism at its worst, corporations, greed, all that stuff, announcing that that game would be $80 for corporate greed against the director's fucking wish. As days later, Brian Adler, the director of Outer Worlds 2, said during an interview that he too was not a fan of the increased price point, saying that he's a developer, they don't set the prices, and rather wish that everybody could just play his game, and wanted to avoid talking about his personal feelings because it probably sounds something like,
I don't know, bro. Ask our fucking bum bitch broke ass publisher. 3 games we've released this year. 3 games, no thanks. For 6 years we've been working on Outer Worlds 2, and on the last leg, months before launch, they fuck us with this bullshit price.
And even though he didn't say all of that, bless your heart for standing up to these greedy fucks. I fear for how Microsoft will retaliate against you. Sparking backlash directed at Xbox and Microsoft specifically, similar to the $80 backlash that we saw with Nintendo, but unlike that backlash, this one actually worked, as where Nintendo was annoyingly smart with how they went about increasing the price of their games, charging more for the casual Mario Kart fan base that they knew would buy their game for $150 fucking dollars, let alone $80. Microsoft was not as smart. They just saw an opportunity for cash and, like an alcoholic going through withdrawals, turned their brains off to chase after it, choosing not to charge $80 for a game with a large casual fan base that would buy it no matter the price, like say Call of Duty, because those pre-orders wouldn't go live until August and Microsoft couldn't wait. They needed money now. So instead, instantly blowing their fucking load and charging $80 for the much smaller Outer World with a much more niche and hardcore fan base coming almost exclusively from Fallout New Vegas that were far more willing to vote with their wallets. How do I know? Because they voted with their wallet. As on July 23rd, Microsoft would announce that they would be retracting the $80 price point and going back down to $70, not just from the backlash, but also from weak pre-order numbers.
We fucking did it. Good work, everybody. It's so nice to have a victory for once.
This victory would not last. As realizing they wouldn't be able to fill their needed 30% profit margins by charging more for their game, Xbox would instead save money by cutting costs, shutting down the initiative and canceling their game that they had been working on for 5 to 7 fucking years at that point. The Perfect Dark reboot, which was likely a year or 2 from release. Microsoft, genuinely, at this rate, outside of Halo and Gears of War, what fucking exclusives are you going to have left?
Outside of Gears of War. Outside of...
And shortly following this 2 months later, with the second wave of console increases in September, which admittedly this time, I can believe are due to tariffs a bit more, considering that most of them were on pause at this point, with Sony also increasing the prices a month earlier. But even with that, these prices are unprecedented. Never have I heard of a generation where console prices were more expensive 5 years after launch than cheaper. Even the PS3 was dirt cheap at this point in its lifespan. What the fuck is this shit? $380 to $400 for the Series S, their weaker budget console, remember. $550 to $600 for the Series X digital edition, not physical. Instead, the physical edition went from $600 to $650, $730 to $800 for the 2 terabyte Series X. Everything else went up by $20 to $50. This went up by $70. Is it because of the stars sprinkled on the case of the consoles? Do you you actually get your paint jobs from China? Again, I understand this time it more likely actually was from tariffs. I get that. I can understand. It was likely out of their control, but you want to know what was completely in their control? The price of their subscription model, Game Pass. Through thick and thin, through all this controversy and bullshit that Microsoft had been pulling off throughout 2024 and 2025, there was still one shining beacon, one ray of light in the Xbox lineup. Their exclusives had been either shit or fucking dead. Their hardware was overpriced to fuck and underselling, but there was one ray of fucking light for Xbox through all of this. Xbox Game Pass, which despite the price increases, was still genuinely the best deal in gaming, so much so that even with all the crap that they were pulling, people were still able to forgive them, although our patience was waning, but there was still that layer of support for Xbox off the back of how good that product was for both consumers and seemingly Xbox themselves, as on September 30th, Sarah Bond, president of Xbox, went out and said how great Game Pass was, profitable and sustainable at $20 a month, and that it had brought them $5 billion in growth in revenue alone. Sarah Bond said this, then went to bed, had a nice little nap, woke up, and proceeded to raise the prices of Game Pass one day later by 50%, unless you're in Brazil, where it went up 100%. $30 a month for Xbox Game Pass. $360 a year. Did you think you were being fucking cute? $360 a year for the only tier that people give a flying fuck about, Ultimate, because it's the only one that has new games on it day one. At that price, you can buy 5 new AAA games a year independently that you actually want and will own and aren't hand-picked random bullshit that you rent and may not even give a fuck about. Microsoft does not even have 5 day one AAA games that are in their fucking Rolodex. And that's just full price AAA games. That's not even mentioning sales, buying games years later, or the dozens of amazing indie games that you could get for dirt cheap. With $360 a year at that price, what is the point of Xbox Game Pass? For their catalog? PS Premium is right there at half the price, and honestly, what is the point of Game Pass? What is the point of this price increase? Tell me, Sarah Bond, what is the point of this price increase? If it's profitable, then why? Why did you need to bump it up by 50%? For what purpose? If you made $5 billion, if it's so great, then why did you need to up the price? Did you charge more because maybe it's not as profitable as you said, or is it profitable and you just wanted more money? Which one is it? Either you're fucking lying or you're fucking greedy. Pick a choice. Microsoft says none of the above. They raised the price because they are listening to feedback. What? On a YouTube video uploaded the same day as the price increase, Microsoft, or I'm sorry, not Microsoft, some lowly unpaid intern that they marched out here to make this announcement because big bitch Phil Elon Musk Spencer would rather shout at his employees to get his gamer score up than be the fucking boss and make this announcement himself, announced that the reason for these price increases was not due to Game Pass not being profitable, not due to Microsoft wanting more money, but because they added 3 additions that everyone wanted, a whopping 8,000 of 30 million. Everybody wants this. Everyone is stoked to pay $10 more for these groundbreaking new features, such as Ubisoft Classic. Those games are so fucking cheap that I could barter for them with a roll of used toilet paper.
Think about another pandemic. God dang, you gave me the entire fucking library.
EA Play.
There is no fucking way we're paying $10 more to get more games from the 2 worst developers in the entire industry.
And finally, if that wasn't enough for you, the biggest, most insane, most generous benefit that will prove the $10 increase of Game Pass alone, a groundbreaking benefit. Fortnite Crew, and they couldn't even give it to you at launch date for day with the price increase in October. I have to wait a month to get my Fortnite Crew. What am I talking? Bro, wait a year, wait a decade, wait a lifetime. I don't give a fuck about Fortnite. Fortnite Crew, Fortnite bitch ass crew, whoop-de-fucking-do. $30 a month so I can get skins like this, and this, and this for a game that I don't fucking play. How kind of you, Microsoft. Where did you find such kindness in your heart to add 3 new features that 3% of your fucking users will find useful before turning around and charging $10 more for all 100% of your fucking users? How brave of you to announce these new features you're adding as justification for your $10 upcharge while staying dead fucking silent about the features you are removing with your $10 upcharge. Did you listen to our feedback when you did that? The 10% discount on skins for games like Call of Duty or Overwatch that Ultimate would give you was removed. remove. We are being charged $1 more for each percent that they removed. We are being charged $10 in total to lose a feature, unless you're on PC, where you're being charged $5 more for no features at all. The PC version of Game Pass 2 has gone up $5 from $12 to $16.50. Was this ever mentioned? Of course not. Why would it be? They were simply listening to our feedback. Who didn't email Xbox and say, please charge me more for no features? Your product is so good, I just want to spend more money on it. Everybody did that. They were just listening to our feedback. It's Xbox's favorite pastime. They always listen to our feedback, especially when it means giving them $10 more or $5 more for Jack Dick. Hey Xbox, here's some feedback. How about you take these new features and shove them down your fucking throat? Give me the old price point. There's some feedback. There's my and 50,000 other people's fucking feedback. There is my and your own fanboy Twitter account's fucking feedback. There is my and Stallion83's, the biggest Xbox player in the world, holder of the largest gamer score in the entire fucking world's fucking feedback. Will you take it, or will you listen to 8,000 fucking stooges that would still support you even if you killed their own fucking mother? Starting November 4th, the 1-month subscription will be $29.99 plus applicable taxes unless you cancel 2 days prior.
I think a lot of people canceled 2 days prior.
Immediately after that announcement, cancel Game Pass became one of Google's most searched terms. So many people bombarded Microsoft's cancellation page that it crashed the entire website.
That's one way to keep people subscribed.
Microsoft made such a horrendous business decision that they DDoSed them fucking self. With all this controversy across the internet from literally everyone, not just haters or hardcore fans or the most hardcore diehard fan, but even fucking IGN, the biggest corporate dick rider in all of gaming, even retailers. Costco no longer selling your consoles. Sam's Club no longer selling your consoles. EB Games, multiple other retailers looking into no longer selling your consoles. GameStop directly dunking on you. So much controversy, so much outrage. How the fuck do you respond? How do you respond when you're a company who famously always takes feedback? How do you respond? Do you pull back the price increases? Do you admit maybe you were wrong? Maybe this time you were wrong? No! You plaster a big fucking full screen ad the moment you boot up your Xbox 1 day later while everyone is actively shouting at you about it, and force your poor fucking social media team to attempt to make this disaster fun, hip, and quirky with posts like 2 words: more rewards. I have 2 better words for you: cancel subscription. And when those 2 responses fail, you send your director of platform and communications, Dustin Blackwell, to the fucking gallows to be interviewed by The Verge, where he spouts some PR bullshit saying, we understand that price increases are never fun for anybody.
Except for you, they seem very fun to you. You seem addicted to doing that.
But we're trying to reinforce by adding more value to these plans as well.
Such as Fortnite.
It's something we don't take lightly, and we're listening to the feedback of players.
But I thought you already listened to the feedback of the players. How could you just now be listening to the feedback of the players when this whole thing started from you allegedly listening to the feedback of the players, huh?
To try and provide them with more of what they're asking for. No. Nobody is asking for anything. We're not asking for a thing. We never asked for any of this. Nobody wanted anything. Nobody wanted new additions at all. You can add a free slushie with every subscription. You can add 17 extendable dildos delivered to my front door every month. I wouldn't want it. All we want is the old fucking price point back. That is our feedback. That is what we want. Why are you not taking our feedback? You always do, right?
Oh, no. We meant we listened to Microsoft's feedback.
How well did this response go? Dustin Blackwell privated his Twitter account. That's how well it went. But at the very least, we could all sleep soundly knowing that this was the last of the price increases, because genuinely, there was nothing else. There was no other way for Microsoft to attempt to monetize further. Nothing else for Microsoft to exploit. There was no other way for Microsoft to financially fuck us. They already raised the prices of their consoles and accessories twice. They attempted to raise the price of their software until we told them to fuck off. They even raised the price of their Golden Goose Game Pass and killed it in the process just to make some extra dope. But at the very least, there was no other way for Microsoft to exploit the fucking consumers. although there was a way for them to exploit developer dev kits, versions of their consoles made specifically for developers, slightly more powerful than the commercial product, access to back-end information like debugging menus to help fix and optimize their games so that they can run properly and be released on your console. This is so games can run and play on your console for your player base so they won't have to deal with broken projects. Microsoft went ahead and monetized that too. From $1,500 to $2,000. Take that, lowly dev making an indie game out of their fucking basement. Good luck affording that. AAA studios, no problem. They can shit out 2K in like 5 minutes, and I mean that both ways. They can shit out 2K in 5 minutes, and they can shit out 2K in 5 minutes because it's just a roster update. Meanwhile, indie devs, which we love, remember how much we love them, will always buy them for publicity to make us look good, fund one game, publish it, watch it succeed before immediately shutting down the studio because it didn't single-handedly make $70 billion in profit. To those indie devs who can't afford to throw around $2,000 like that,
$2,000 please, for the privilege of releasing your game on our 30 million player base system. The others have what? 50 million more than us? 120 million more than us? 2,000 please, sounds like a steal to me.
A $500 increase for the privilege of QA testing their game so they can release it on the least lucrative console. Want an example? Dispatch, one of the most breakout releases of 2025, is not on Xbox because the company making it almost went bankrupt during development, so they decided to focus on the system with the most audience, PS5 and PC. So hearing that, Xbox decided to ensure that companies that are about to go bankrupt don't release on their system by making their dev kits more expensive. Why? Why the price increase? Why do devs have to pay more now? Why is Microsoft charging $500 more for dev kits when no other company has increased the price of their dev kits? Well, why else do you think? It's because of tariffs, not to meet their 30% profit margin, but because all together now, tariffs. That's what's caused the increase of the dev kits. Tariffs that also are affecting Sony and Nintendo, by the way, but not in the way they're affecting Xbox. Sony and Nintendo, they didn't even have to raise the price of their dev kits. Sony only had to raise the price of their consoles once, not even twice. You don't understand how these tariffs are affecting Xbox. How these tariffs are affecting Xbox, man. They're affecting Xbox on a different level, how these tariffs are affecting them. They're affecting them so much that the entire world, any dev attempting to import the dev kit into their country has to pay the new tariff fee, even if it's being imported into a country that isn't affected by the tariff, that doesn't even have any tariffs, they still have to pay the tariff cost fee. How does that work? I don't fucking know, but you don't understand. These tariffs, God, they're fucking destroying Xbox. Everything, hardware, paint sets, pacemakers, lines of code, online subscriptions. Now, even countries, they're not fucking in. God, how horrible. Microsoft's got to be reeling at having to raise these prices after they were just done raising prices and raising prices and raising prices. After all, they understand that price increases are never fun for anybody. God, they must hate how good of an excuse has been to let them charge more for all their fucking products. God, they must despise how much it's helped their bottom line. God.
Never mind.
As if nobody could have fucking guessed it, but apparently charging consumers struggling to afford food and rent $800 and $360 for a fucking subscription does not yield profits, because how are you gonna make a profit when nobody can afford the things you're trying to sell for a profit? As after shutting down countless studios, letting go of thousands, canceling multiple projects, raising the price of their subscription service by 50% and all their hardware twice, all in an attempt to make some money and meet that 30% profit margin, Xbox would announce in their Q3 report that they had made a 29% loss in their profit margin. The company's hardware was down 29%.
Xbox, I'm not sure if you realize this, but they meant 30% in the other way.
A loss of $113 million. Although admittedly, to give credit where credit is due, their content and services did go up 1%. Not bad, not bad. Only negative 28% away from where it needs to be. I know that's not how net profits work, but I don't fucking care. It's funny. Although as bad as that sounds, there does seem to be some light at the end of the tunnel for Xbox. Something that'll turn this ship around, gain them back support, and make them some profit. Project Magnus, Xbox's next-gen console, rumored to be releasing in 2026 as seemingly a sort of hybrid between console and PC, and in between, an idea that, in my opinion, is pretty good, especially with how things have been going for Xbox in the more traditional console race, as in destruction and destruction. The only logical route that they could really take is to pivot and more directly challenge the PC marketplace and offer something that hasn't really been offered to those in-between fans who want the flexibility of a PC while also attaining the casual feel of a console console, sitting back on your couch to play it, not having to worry about drivers or bullshit maintenance 24/7. So instead, you're only gonna have to deal with drivers and bullshit maintenance for the first 4 hours. As seemingly as a test run for this idea, on October 16, 2025, Xbox would release the ROG Ally, initially rumored to cost $500 and $900. Broke bitch Xbox, of course, would instead charge $600 and $1,000. A hybrid PC and handheld console in the same vein as the Switch and Steam Deck running on Windows hardware, with an Xbox paint job to give it that more streamlined look and experience, which is almost identical to what Project Magnus is trying to do, but for the living room instead of a handheld. As the ROG Ally is seemingly a $1,000 experiment for their guinea pigs, also known as their fan base, to take part in. How well did this experiment go? Xbox has seemingly delayed Project Magnus from 2026 to 2027. As while the idea sounds great and has merit, in execution, it does not work simply because Windows is a piece of shit software. I would know it's currently bricking my entire computer with background apps and software updates to the point that I am considering switching to Linux that I don't even know how to use. As users expecting a clean handheld software experience with a streamlined Xbox look and overlay that just so happen to be running on Windows, are instead having to deal with 4 hours of updates fresh out of the box, setting up pin information, all their fucking spyware that comes pre-installed in Windows just to be able to use the fucking thing, and when it's all said and done, not having a clean handheld Xbox interface, but having to navigate through Windows 11 designed for a precise mouse, remember, with their thumbs. Instead, the clean handheld Xbox interface that was promised and showcased was just a fucking app downloaded on the fucking console that you had to launch and could minimize with ease. The equivalent of me setting Steam to big picture mode and saying,
I made a PC console hybrid. Oh, okay, just have to put in my pin. Steam, here we go. Now I just have to wait for that to boot. I'm gonna have to select my account, of course. There we go. Alright, let me just set that to big picture mode now. Let that load. It's seamless! Why is everything running so slowly? Oh! Of course!
If this is what Project Magnus is getting hyped up to be, then we may have a trifecta of Xbox failures. I won't lie. If this is all that Project Magnus is, then brother, this was not a joke. I will connect my PC to my TV and launch Steam and big picture mode for the same effect. I will buy the console PC hybrid that Steam is rumored to be making, which, if real, will probably run better than yours, just like their handheld runs better than yours. The Switch 2 gives you a seamless console handheld experience with Nintendo's vast library of exclusives that are genuine system sellers, even if I don't agree with the price, all for $450. The PS6 will sell you that traditional streamlined console experience with their less vast, but still vast library of exclusives for a rumored $600. Project Magnus will give you a bad PC with no exclusives at all for $1,200. A bad PC with no exclusives that is double or triple the price of their fucking competition. If that is the future of Xbox, then just like the present of Xbox and the past of Xbox, you are fucked. And if Steam is also making a hybrid, you are double fucked. You have ran away from your competition directly into new, better competition. Or never mind, I'm sorry. What am I talking about? Your competition is TikTok and movies. Of course, who wouldn't have guessed? Because you are out of your mind if you think I am paying 1.2K on an Xbox branded PC pre-built. I already spent $500 on the Series X at launch like a dumbass waiting through those insufferable fucking queues after being promised exclusives just for my library to look like this 5 fucking years later. The only thing I used this fuck-ass fridge for was your subscription service. And that is fucked too, because just like your PC pre-built, you are out of your mind if you expect me to pay $30 a month for old games and Call of Duty.
I fucking forgot to cancel! And the fucking servers are down again. I'll fucking do it later. I fucking forgot to cancel my subscription!